Welcome back to Weekend Dawn on Channel 405. We're with you until 9 o'clock. We're still chatting about the January 8th statement. President of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, addressed party members on the January 8th statement. It was expected that he would use the opportunity to outline solutions to its ongoing factional battles. He has recently said that divisions were becoming more apparent in the ranks of the party. This also takes place as the organization battles internally over the fate of its Secretary General Ace Magashule, who has refused to step aside while facing serious criminal charges. Tensions between supporters of Ramaphosa and former President Jacob Zuma were visible in Kimberley. Former President Jacob Zuma refuses to present himself to the commission. Did the statement properly address these issues? We're now with Newsroom Africa's politics editor Sbu Ngalwa and political analyst Xolani Dube joins the conversation. Xolani, thank you so much for joining us. We were actually chatting about this off air now, and I thought I should bring you in, Sbu, first and talk about the Nasrec resolution on corruption. What is your comments on that, especially on the back of how we spoke about Ace Magashule stepping aside?
I think it would be quite naive of us just to single out one person out of this crawl of hyenas who are scavenging on the vulnerability of our people. If we really look at Ace Magashule alone, it will be really unfair because they say the road starts from the head. And by saying that, I'm referring to what the Integrity Committee said recently regarding the conduct of the president of the ANC when he appeared in that Integrity Committee with the entourage or with the regiment of lawyers to the Integrity Committee, because such kind of an act really, it raised lots of uncomforting questions that says why the president of the ANC, someone that always speak highly about morals and ethics of the organization, when he's appearing to the Integrity Committee, he created this fortress of lawyers around himself. And so I think also the rumors or the allegations and his unwillingness to open up those sealed envelopes also raises a lot of questions to people around his integrity. And so hence I am saying the road starts from the head. And if the road starts from the head, we have to ask ourselves, who can really save us from the so-called hyenas, whom himself, the president of the ANC, on the 23rd of August 2020, he referred to his party members as the hyenas who scavenge on the vulnerability and the gullible people of South Africa. He even himself made it clear by admitting that the ANC is an accused number one when it comes to corruption. And so I think such kind of diagnostic from the president of the organization left us cold. And we were asking ourselves as the South African citizen, where are we going with the governing party if its president say such kind of uncomforting analysis about his own political organization? And so let us not look at Ace Magashule alone, but let's look at the whole organization as an institution that has turned itself into a criminal enterprise.
Now, Xolani, you heard the president talk tough on corruption and refer to how the party will actually be implementing its own resolutions, particularly that resolution which relates to the stepping aside rule. Do you think he did enough to convince South Africans and ANC members that the ANC will finally do what it always claims that it will be able to do in terms of being tough on corruption?
Look, we've had this during the times of Thabo Mbeki. It's not a new thing. And even during the time of Jacob Zuma, if you look at all the January 8th statement, they always mention the issue of corruption. But at the end of the day, these people who mention corruption turn out that these are the same perpetrators of corruption. And so I think the issue of corruption, they just throw what we call it dust in our eyes. And so we need not really take them serious because action speaks louder than words. And as I'm saying, classical example, our own president, his own integrity committee was not comfortable the way he conducted himself when he appeared to the integrity committee. And so I don't think that really we need to take ANC serious when it comes to the issues of corruption.
Sbu, I'd like to actually pick up on what Xolani is saying about the rot from the head. And when I think about this thing of the rot from the head and how even the leader of the ANC himself, President Cyril Ramaphosa, must be held accountable, I think the main question here is the CR17 campaign and the finances. Should that ever be released, and will that make a big difference within the support base for Cyril Ramaphosa within the ANC?
Look, personally, I think actually it would help President Ramaphosa to actually be upfront about such, because we now know, in fact, Xolani references the point. The ANC's Integrity Commission says that President Ramaphosa is hiding behind the legal processes. But now we also know that the ANC is the one that has told us that it is a voluntary organization, that it has its own constitution, and it may, although it is bound by the constitution of the country, but it does have its own internal processes. So for the president to be going before the commission and waiving the legal process in front of them to avoid accountability, it shows you that actually, as Luan is saying, it does not help him, especially when he talks about corruption, because you can talk about corruption on the one end, but what he's seen to be doing. Here's a case in point. If you look at what he was reading at the part where he was talking about the resolution that refers to people stepping aside, just beneath that, he deals then with a part which talks about ANC members having to, or the ANC members being discouraged from using money. Now, if you look at that, it tells me that both factions, in as much as there is a push that if you are calling for accountability on the one side in terms of people going to court and stepping aside, equally, there must be accountability on the use of money. And what does it point to? It points to the president. And I think that for as long as he fails to account before the commission and to the ANC and being upfront about his finances, he will continue to have that as an albatross around his neck, Jacob.
All right, now, Xolani, in your opinion, do you think the campaign funding should be made public?
Look, I think we live post-Cold War here. ANC is no longer in bushes, you know. It is an open organization. I think the way it conducts itself is self-defeating, you know. There is nothing wrong for anyone to campaign. To campaign, you need to have money. You get what I mean? And so I don't understand why they still unlaw such kind of reality. You know, they must open up. They must say, look, we are a democratic party. Let's also restructure our electoral reform as an organization. It's supposed to be inclusive, you know. It's not supposed to be only few people who go to Nazareth, to go to the national conference and elect people. I think each and every person in the ANC now needs to have an opportunity to elect its leader rather than for a selected few. Because when you really talk about the principles of democracy, and if ANC itself claims to be a democratic institution, it's supposed to give each and every member a voice. And that voice is to vote for its president or for its leadership. And in such a way, I think it can also strangulate all these ills that we always hear or we heard about that unfold during the ANC elective conference. And so I think reforming its electoral system, it will help a lot. And also to say, look, guys, we live post-Cold War here. We are no longer a liberation movement. We are a governing party in a democratic state. And so let's open up. People must campaign the way they want. I think that will help us a lot.
Now, Xolani, changing a gear a bit, I mean, we saw COSATU come out and not impressed with the president's speech insofar as it dealt with the issues that relate to labor. Of course, COSATU has been unhappy about a number of things. But I think for me, the one thing, if you look at this January 8 statement, comparing it to the previous ones. The ANC has been bold in its promises. I think it was last year, 2019, where it promised 1.1 million jobs. Of course, we know that didn't come to, that did not materialize. But what do you read into the party actually not being specific this time around about what it wants to do in terms of creating jobs, especially at this time when our economy is struggling?
Look, the whole ideological posture of the speech, I think, was more on the neoliberal posture. And moreover, before I answer that question, there is an issue of diplomatic or international relations where our president was having kind of fit to come out and tell us about the relationship between the ANC and the Palestinians, and between the issues of all this havoc that is happening in our continent. This was for the first time for the ANC not affirming its support to the Palestinian community, and one wonders whether that also is being strangulated in terms of the economic relation between the so-called inverted commas, the Jews in our country. And one really is seeing the ANC starting to compromise its serious stand on certain issues. And coming to the issues of workers, as I've said, the whole speech was anti-worker, and it was based, or it was skating on a neoliberal posture. Hence, even you didn't hear anything that ANC always claimed to be biased towards the workers. And the issue of creating jobs, we have to be quite honest with the public that ANC has failed that, even when they were trying to create that reservoir of job creation through state institutions such as the so-called the local government. We are seeing the local government failing, and the society can't sustain the existence of financially the local government. And so I think the ANC is in a serious crisis, because when ANC, you have to understand, when ANC talks about job creation, to a certain extent, it uses a forked tongue. That forked tongue is to say our members, we can absorb them through our state institution employment or through the government employment, especially in the local government. And now the local government is crumbling, and the people can't sustain this local government. And the issue of the wage bill, it is beyond our ability now as South Africans, because there's so much huge unemployment, about 12.8 million of people who are unemployed. And when you look at our G coefficient, it is the worst in the world. And when you look at our food basket, there are people who can't even afford the food basket. And so all those things, it's clearly an indication that we are in an economic sinkhole, and we can't talk. I don't think that the ANC currently has done any kindness to the South African workers, and the unemployment is still going to rise. And on the other side, bear in mind that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, and we are not innovative enough in order to absorb the unskilled workers in our country.
All right, Sbu Ngalwa, Newsroom Africa's politics editor, as well as political analyst Xolani Dube, will of course still be joining us after the break when we talk about the unity within the ANC. And a question that I want to bring up to both the guys is about the ANC councillor in Johannesburg who had amazing support outside court. He's allegedly been accused of rape. I think I'd like to know the answer to where do we draw the line when it comes to support, specifically within the ANC. Supporters coming wearing the party regalia, etc. We'll continue that conversation, of course, with politics editor Sbu Ngalwa and political analyst Xolani. Stay with us. It is Weekend Dawn on channel 405. We'll be back right after this.